Hey there, everybody. Welcome to the Daily Space Weather. We've got all kinds of activity kicking off. Let's get to it. Here at the Smash News Network, least busted, naming news. Large sunspot group with two major umbrae have risen in the southeast, increasing the likelihood of major solar flares. Also another active region rising here to its north. This is 94 angstrom from the SDO, the Solar Dynamics Observatory. There's a zoom out of that same region, the whole solar disk view. This is also a sunspot up here. We'll get to analysis of that a little bit later. I will say that this sunspot in between these two groups, so we've got 2886 right here. We've got 2887 right here. This is going to be known as 2888. This one in between, which just formed right there, that's a beta class sunspot group as well. We've got one really large beta gamma class sunspot group. This one 2887. 2888 is also beta class, and sunspot 2886 is alpha class. Here's another ionized iron view. This is 171 angstroms from the Solar Dynamics Observatory. And, oh noes, I forgot to play the intro theme. There it is. It's called Unified Theory 3, by the way. We've also got a coronal mass ejection warning in effect. There are a bunch of filaments on the sun. Some of them are about to leave the solar corona. So you can see some of them around this area here. You can see some up here. There are also some over here around the eastern limb. Solar flare and coronal mass ejection warnings, both in effect. The radial flux has come up to 87 solar flux units, and there's a magnetic tug-of-war going on the east side of the sun as well. We'll get to that momentarily. There's the one-year chart to put the radial flux in context. It's the black line. The red line below it there is the sunspot number. Continuing on to the Space Weather Enthusiast dashboard, we've got no solar storms forecasted, no coronal mass ejections headed Earth's way at the moment. And let's pause to look at the global seismicity picture over the past 24 hours. Majorly deep quake here near Fiji, over 650 kilometers estimated depth at that 4.5 magnitude earthquake. South Sandwich Island seeing some activity as well. Also Tonga. Nothing over a 6 magnitude here over the past 24 hours. One of those South Sandwich Islands quakes was a 5.2 magnitude at over 129 kilometers depth. Some quakes in western South America. Looks like one in Texas as well. It's too small to report on the daily space weather. Chile also saw a 5.0. There was a 5.1 out in the Aleutian Islands. And only 6 minutes later, a 5.1 at Taiwan. So some shaking there in the North Pacific. And continuing on to volcanism. What's erupting? You're asking? Well, we're telling. Nevado del Ruiz, certainly on the list. Let's start out with Etna. Major uptick at Etna as it explodes. 24,000-foot ash plume from the Sicilian volcano. That's an uptick at Etna. La Palma continuing to explode, cause evacuations, etc., producing an 8,000-foot plume of volcanic ash. Suwanosejima, flight level 060, 6,000-foot ash plume from Suwanosejima. Mount Yasur, ongoing low-level emissions of ash are enough to produce a 4,000-foot ash plume, flight level 040. That ash plume is moving northerly at about 5 knots. Fuego exploding in Guatemala, 15,000-foot ash plume from Fuego. 19,000-foot ash plume from Nevado del Ruiz as it explodes in Colombia. Sangay and Revenador, both erupting in Ecuador in explosive fashions, producing a 21,000 and 15,000-foot ash plume respectively at Sangay and Revenador. Sabancaya exploding in Peru. Intermittent puffs of volcanic ash are enough to produce an ash plume of 25,000 feet, flight level 250. A reminder to not pole vault the caldera. Do you appreciate these videos? Do you like them to remain publicly visible and free for all to view? Well, we certainly do. Increase the probability that will be a thing by clicking our links. You can find them below the video. This is the Red Bubble Shop. Please don't pole vault the caldera. Let's do a Winston Churchill quote. If you're going through hell, keep going. No matter how bad things get, folks, don't worry, they could get worse. Just kidding, folks. No, they really could get worse. However, our best days are ahead of us. Universum liberate is what I have to say. Forgive, remember, and hold accountable. Universum liberate, folks. Universum liberate. You've got the internet. You can probably figure out what it means. Please don't pole vault the caldera. Thanks to the SMASH team for continuing to support our continuing efforts to provide fraud-free information here on YouTube, on BitChute, etc. Visit our homepage, smashamash.com. Welcome to the Neo Renaissance. You can find our links there as well. That one was the smAsho merch link. Click on that to see our Red Bubble Shop. The print quality is spectacular. Perhaps pick up our bestseller, the Vaccinate This. My vaccination status is none of your business. HIPAA products. Available in all sorts of different designs and products. Next, some magnetic data. And there is a bit of magnetic indecision going on in the eastern portion of the sun. By the way, folks, if you must define a star in one simple way, one could make the argument legitimately that a star is its magnetic fields, as there are chicken and egg arguments about what stars indeed are. Anyway, that's the GOES magnetometer measurements over the past 3 days. We're seeing pretty high highs and high lows here in the past 24. Now we're going to show this magnetic tug-of-war going on. There was a North Pole current sheet hurtling our way, which has now subsided. Perhaps an indication that we'll see some activity rising in the northern hemisphere. But in any case, we're going to cancel that onset of the North Pole current sheet, as there is no North Pole current sheet at the moment at this point in the ecliptic plane, except on the other side of the sun. So right now, only 2 current sheets. Earth right in the middle of the South Pole-oriented one. Here's a line-of-sight ecliptic plane field plot. You can see this blue line is going to come way back up into the northern hemisphere here, keeping the Earth in a South Pole current sheet. I won't elaborate on that further on this video. I'll have to save that for a cosmology segment, or perhaps a heliophysics segment, or perhaps a magnetohydrodynamics segment. Here's the line-of-sight coronal hole plot showing the sun's B field in blue. These blue potential field surface source lines are the sun's B field, as measured by 51 ground-based magnetometers here on Earth, as well as magnetometers at Lagrange 5 on stereo A and Lagrange 4 on stereo B. And we see some well-defined coronal holes making up a large portion of the earthly disk in the southern hemisphere there. You can see all those South Pole-oriented coronal holes in red. Less North Pole coronal holes showing up. Here's the 193 angstroms SDO animation. The best wavelength at showing coronal holes. No well-defined coronal holes actually in the earthly zone, unless you want to talk about the North Solar Polar Field coronal hole. And here's our detected filaments and detected sunspot groups. Again, sunspot 2886 is just alpha class, pretty uninteresting. Sunspot 2887 is very interesting. It's beta gamma class. It's likely to produce major solar flares. Sunspot 2888, which it'll probably get named today, is now beta class. This one in the north also alpha class last I checked. We'll show you high-res imagery of that toward the end of the video. No major solar flares. There was a minor C-class intensification over the past 24 hours. And we see some flaring from that rising region in the southeast. So that's probably another sunspot group. If I had to guess, I would say it is another sunspot group. I don't have to guess, though. There's the proton flux over the past 3 days. Again, no coronal mass ejections headed our way at the moment. That could suddenly change as a result mainly of sunspot 2887. Next, the real-time solar wind. Pretty unremarkable here over the past 24 hours. We see a slight decline in the solar wind velocity here. Pretty steady solar wind density over the past 24. Current conditions are solar wind density only 3.7 protons per cubic centimeter. Solar wind speed 407 kilometers per second. Continuing on to look at the geospace. And we see geomagnetic calm conditions there. There is a KP of 0 over the past 6 hours. The KP index, a measurement of global geomagnetism. And here's the geomagnetism going on around planet Earth in magnetohydrodynamic pressure modeled by the Space Weather Modeling Framework. It's 4 hours of data courtesy University of Michigan. Nothing very exciting going on in the geospace at the moment, as we've seen such homogeneous solar wind velocity and speed. We're letting this play through as it refreshes. We don't edit the videos, folks. We put them up in an unedited format to get them onto your screens as promptly as possible. Congratulations on realizing our channel exists. Again, that was 4 hours of data there. Next, ground magnetic perturbations, geospace delta B changes to Earth's B field. We show it daily since there's a polar excursion going on. Leave us a comment if you're unnecessarily frightened about the ongoing polar excursion. Consumer tip: the sun's not going to kill you. Please plan accordingly. Like the last frame, that's 4 hours of data there. Nothing too exciting happening there. Next, a diagram of the solar system. We've got a gibbous waning. Let's advance this 1 week. And there's where things will be in a week. Mercury swinging around to give Mars a little company on the lonely side of the sun. Next, we've got a star chart. It's in -the-sky.org. I'm always interested in what's going on above my head. Are you? If so, go to in-the-sky.org, click on all sky charts, and put in your zip code. It will tell you what's happening above your head. Mercury has just risen ahead of the sun. And also Mars. Mercury and Mars there, rising ahead of the sun here in Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania. The moon going into a setting mode. Let's do a brief cosmology segment. If you haven't checked our playlist, there are over 200 videos in our cosmology segments playlist, youtube.com/smashamash/playlists. We've discovered a very young, apparently, certainly a very hot Jupiter-like planet. It's located at about 100 AU, and AU is an astronomical unit representing the distance of Earth to the Sun. So it's located at about 930 million miles from its host star. That cross-like feature you see there, those are artifacts from the optics used to image this. And I'll just let the article scroll here. The planet is named 2M0437b. Again, it is a approximately Jupiter-sized, very, very hot planet. The surface of the planet appears to be about the temperature of lava. If you want to read about it, you can head to scitechdaily.com. scitechdaily.com. The article entitled, "Astronomers Discover Infant Planet, One of the Youngest Exoplanets Ever Observed." And there it is. Put on your red-blue 3D glasses if you've got them. Here's an image of the asteroid Bennu as taken by OSIRIS-REx and translated into 3D imagery. It's the astronomy picture of the day, apod.nasa.gov. If you want to go look at it yourself, apod.nasa.gov. A 3D image of the asteroid Bennu. By the way, there are samples of this asteroid headed back to Earth. They should be here in September of 2023, so about 2 years out on that. Let's pick a random number. Today's random number is 91, which coincides with an object here at the Neil Gorell Swift-Bat X-ray Observatory. Here are the transients. The hard X-rays of these objects. This one is a high-mass X-ray binary known as LSI plus 61303, or V615 Cassiopeia. Here are the hard X-rays from that high-mass X-ray binary. It's a pretty consistent X-ray source here over the past 16 years. Pretty consistent over the past 30 days as well. Let's go look at some visuals of this if possible. So we're going to bring up the CDS portal here and see what we can find. So there it is. It's a high-mass X-ray binary. This is optical wavelengths. And maybe we're actually able to see the binary there. That would be pretty sweet. Let's take a look at this in some other wavelengths if possible. Does it show up in X-ray? There it is in X-ray. And what about ultraviolet light? That might give us some idea into the plasma structures. And I would say that probably is the companion there, as we do see it in both UV and optical, looking at a similar focal length there. Does it show up on pan-stars? There it is in multiple bands on pan-stars, the optical survey. The very high-resolution optical survey, I might add. Very bright, high-mass X-ray binary there. And does it show up on the 2-mass? There is the infrared spectra from V615 Cassiopeia, our quote random and quote object of the day, obviously from the constellation Cassiopeia. By the way, if you haven't checked out our playlists, youtube.com/smAsho has quite a few of them. If you head to our homepage, did you know that I'm not only smAsho, but I'm also a client? Yeah. Part of the reason I make these videos is to watch them on a larger screen. Yes, it's true, folks. So yeah, check out the playlists. Cosmology segments are in the playlists. You can find all kinds of material you won't see on the playlists if you only view the meteorology segments and daily space weather videos. So make sure you check those out. And while we're unable to detect whether or not it's erupting, don't take that as a cue to pole vault the caldera. Please don't pole vault the caldera. Please do visit our playlists at youtube.com/smAsho/playlists, where there are like 230 cosmology segments. Let's take a look at charging hazards around the Earth. We don't see any at the moment. There's your green bars around the equatorial region. Here's a 1-year chart of the electron flux. Electrons are capable of charging up satellites, typically on the surface. Not going on now. Here's the electron flux in context over the past year. Here it is over the past 3 days. We're seeing quite low levels here at the moment. There is the relativistic electron forecast. NOAA forecasting a little uptick here in electron flux. No arguments from me there. Here's a diagram of Earth Van Allen belts because we're going to show you the total electron content forecast next. The total electron content between your GPS satellite and your GPS handset. And we typically do see chaos here around coronal hole wind streams, but we've seen one subside here, so NOAA's expecting a little uptick here in the electron flux. I wouldn't tend to argue there. A little bit of chaos here, some anomalous electrons there over Antarctica. I'll let it play through a second time here. Some anomalous electrons there over North America as well. So a little bit of chaos in the electron belts. We typically see this much more significantly when we see low levels of electron flux. I won't get into the physics in this video. Here's another diagram of Earth's atmosphere, showing you things like thermospheric temperatures, thermospheric molecular composition, and electromagnetic radiation penetration into layers of the atmosphere. We're showing you this because the next frame is the F ionosphere layer, located at about 300 kilometers of altitude. It's one slice in vibrational frequency, megahertz, millions of vibrations per second. We do see some anomalies here in the ionosphere, especially over the Americas and the Central Pacific Ocean. I don't know why it stopped playing. Let's reload it. So a bit of a dust up there vibrationally over places like South America. By the way, the South Atlantic anomaly is now over the South American continent, about where my pointer is. Let's look at the anomaly map. There's the anomaly map. Here's the latest image on the ionogram. That's from 11 o'clock Universal Time. And here's the anomalygram. This is anomaly in megahertz from the 30-day median. Excuse me. So once again, we're seeing mainly low-frequency anomalies here in the northern hemisphere. Anyway, there's the latest image. That's 11 o'clock Universal Time anomalygram. There's the 11 o'clock Universal Time ionogram. If you haven't seen our meteorology segments, there's a playlist for that too. YouTube.com/smAsho/playlists. Here come bonus features. First, the El Teide, Spain ground-based solar observatory. Here's the latest hydrogen alpha imagery. That's 6,562.8 angstroms. And we see a bunch of filaments here, coronal mass ejection warning and solar flare warning in effect, folks. We're going to see both things. Here's the latest intensity gram and the latest magnetogram. Once again, that's now a beta class sunspot. I see two umbrae there. They're barely visible. This is still an alpha class sunspot. This sunspot in between has two different umbrae. I'd say it's probably beta class, and that is beta gamma class. That is just a big sunspot. And while it might be degrading, it's still capable of producing significant solar flares. There's also an active region rising to the northeast of that. There's 2886. There's sunspot 2888, again, beta class. And this thing here is just gigantic. That is beta gamma class and more than capable of producing M and probably X class flares. So here's a full disk view. This is 304 and 171 angstroms together. Could be my favorite composite. And here's a close-up. You got sunspot 2886, 2887, and 2888, as well as this active region here in the upper left of your screen. This rising region here, not sure if that's going to be a sunspot yet. I would have to say I guess it probably is. We'll keep you posted. And we'll close things out with 171 angstroms. Thanks again for tuning in. Don't forget to tell your friends and foes about the channel. We've got the ultimate solar imagery and forecasting on the entire internet. There is no competition to the channel. And may that solar wind be at your back.